The 21st century is the era of new technologies and science. Kazakhstan's economy stands on the path of innovative industrialization. As for today, there are 18 new industrial facilities on the territory of the Republic. 3,500 specialists have permanent jobs at these factories. Kazakhstan is among 50 the most competitive countries of the world.
Стратегия развития до 2050 года.
The development strategy until 2050, this is not a final goal. It's not an impossible dream. Our greatest dream was to get our independence, and it came true. The dream was to put Kazakhstan on the right track, to have a powerful economy, to make sure that Kazakhstan is known throughout the world, and we were able to achieve it. This is the foundation, the framework, the roof. Now we need to fill our common house with new technology to improve the life of the residents of our common home. This is our future, and this is the biggest challenge. 1991, the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Republic of Kazakhstan gains its independence. In order to carry out political and economic reforms, the country needs highly qualified personnel. The young state had on the agenda a pressing task to train fundamentally new specialists of a new format for a new economy who will comply with international criteria, not with Soviet standards. Our generation is destined to give you way to young people of our republic. This is the natural way of life. Your generation will have to work hard to build a new society, a new state, and a new economy. All this requires a good sustainable knowledge. Today, while you are young, you have time. You have to study hard and use all opportunities for this. Each of you will have to take care of yourself, your family. You will need to manage your own business and work responsibly. You cannot do it well without a good education. Only your current knowledge and good health will be the guarantees of your common future, and hence, our future. Younger generation, the country's future is in your hands. November 5, 1993. This date was inscribed in gold in the history of sovereign Kazakhstan. President Nursultan Nazarbayev signed the decree on the establishment of the International Scholarship of the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Bolashak, for training specialists abroad. In the transition period of Kazakhstani economy to market relations and the expansion of international ties, there is an urgent need for staff with appropriate education. In this regard, it's very important to send the most prepared young people to study in the leading educational institutions of foreign countries. I enact to establish an international scholarship of the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Bolashak, for training talented young people in the leading institutions of the US, the UK, France, Germany, and other countries. You know that Bolashak was created on my own initiative in difficult times, in an extremely difficult times for our country. We were the first country that did it on the post-Soviet territory. The rest followed in our footsteps. After going through all the difficulties of 2,000% inflation, empty shelves in the stores, 1.5 million unemployed, the government could not pay any pensions, teachers and doctors' salaries. Mothers had to stand in line for 4 hours to get milk for their children, sometimes even for 10 hours. And it could be in vain because there was no milk left. And in spite of everything, I've decided in 1993 to send our young people to the best universities in the world, and it was not a mistake. Sergei Tereshchenko, the first Prime Minister of independent Kazakhstan. Images from the chronicles of the dashing 1990s still pop up in front of his eyes. He remembers exactly what kind of effort it took for the state to send the most talented Kazakhstani young people to the best universities of the world using government finances. The economy was in a state of collapse. Almost all the major manufacturing had stopped. Inflation was off scale. Unemployment was skyrocketing. The country was plunged into wild capitalism. At the time, Kazakhstan just began its transition to a market economy, and there were no specialists to support this transition.
Нет, идея возникла, она возникла у президента.
The idea came to the president. I think it was 1993 when I was invited to his office. And he said to me, "You know, Sergey, you and I are building market economy. You and I know nothing about it. We didn't learn it. And we're trying to build it based on our knowledge of socialism, trying to turn it into capitalism. We need people who will know how to manage the capitalistic state, its entities. Basically, we need appropriately trained people." So I have been thinking about it for some time and decided that we need to create a program. We need money to send our young, talented people abroad so they will learn the languages, get good, appropriate education, with an experience from the US, the UK, Singapore, Malaysia, and so on. So I was told to find the financial means. We had at the time some reserves of aluminium and copper, so we sold it.
Опыт там американский, опыт английский, опыт там.
Tradition of training young specialists abroad for attracting new technologies and knowledge was used since ancient times. All the major powers of the world at some point used this path. After World War II, Japan was able to build a radically new state with the help of new generation that adopted European and American knowledge. They were the one who stood at the origins of the so-called Japanese miracle. Boris Godunov was the first Russian ruler who in 1602 sent 18 Moscow noblemen to study in England, Germany, and France. In 1696, Peter the Great issued a decree on training aristocratic youth abroad. 28 representatives of aristocratic families went to study in Italy, Holland, and England. After they returned home, they were able to build cities, ships, and create a capable fleet and revive the trade. However, according to the royal instructions, the noblemen were trained abroad at their own expense. Kazakhstan's program for training abroad is unique because it opened the opportunity of receiving education in the best universities of the world for all segments of the population at the expense of the state. It became especially important for talented children from low-income families. According to statistics, 2/3 of the program's fellows were children of people working in non-governmental organizations and retirees. 8% of scholars' parents at the time of the scholarship were unemployed, and more than 200 scholars were talented young people without parents.
Отбирали мы достойных, самых достойных.
We strive to select the most talented people. We had an independent commission that consisted of people from different countries. Then our Republican Commission sent people according to professions of high priority for the state. There were so many people who wanted to participate, and I, as a Minister of Education at the time, had a lot of pressure coming from different directions. You have to understand, many people wanted to send their children to the best universities of the world.
Мы им определяли, конечно, по желанию специальности.
Hadisha Dairova, in those years, participated in the establishment of the Republic's cooperation with the first partners of the program. She was a counselor of the Embassy of Kazakhstan in the United States on humanitarian issues of bilateral cooperation. The priority was the administration of the Bolashak program in the United States and Canada. Since then, many years have passed, but the memories are still alive.
А в 1994 году, когда поступили первые документы,
In 1994, we received our first applications.
посольство
There were 120 applications at the embassy and the decree of the Prime Minister.
самых лучших
I selected the most talented out of 120 applicants.
по программам обмена в Америке.
At the time, The students studied in the United States as part of the exchange program in different universities. I selected and decided to try the most famous American university, Georgetown University in Washington. I called to the Department of Diplomacy because that was one of the majors that we needed. Provost of the university, who is usually not involved with students' admission, after a short pause, said to me, "Yes, come this Thursday." And I came that Thursday. I saw a huge table that was surrounded with a lot of people. Within 2 hours, I got detailed information on how to get into the American and Canadian universities. I found out about the requirements of the top universities. And it was not the end. No, I had to go there for 2 weeks, just like I would go to work to research everything. I translated the information into Russian and faxed it to the Ministry of Education.
Ну, как настроение?
How does everyone feel? Those of you who came back and those who will be leaving. It's an extremely great pleasure to meet you all. Not only the best representative of our youth, but also the strongest one are gathered here today. You were able to pass all the challenges, competition with your peers, and you are now the scholars. 13 years ago, when I approved the President's Scholarship Bolashak, it was part of the educational program of Kazakhstan. There were many skeptical people who argued whether we need it or not, because each of the scholar would cost to our country a lot of money. For example, at the very beginning, we spent about $50,000 on our students. I believe that our first graduates, my first scholars, after coming back home, will become the future elite of our country. Highly keep this honor and this responsibility.
Все присутствующие в этом зале.
I want to thank everyone in this room, first of all, for giving me the honor to speak on behalf of all the Bolashak scholars with the words of gratitude and appreciation to the President of Kazakhstan and to the Ministry of Education. This video from 20 years ago, Snezhana Popova calls a unique historical event. During this year, a simple girl from the province started a new page in her life. She got a real gift of fate, education opportunity in America. The meeting became a lifetime memory, not only for me, but also for all the students who had opportunity to participate in this meeting. This was the beginning of a new day. Of course, it was a great happiness that we have successfully passed all the exams, received our diplomas. It was a great feeling of being in demand. There was a lot of work for us.
Вот у всех у вас
Each and every one of you starts a new page in life. It's going to be a wonderful page. When we were your age, we couldn't even dream of it.
мы в вашем возрасте мечтать
The country was closed. We couldn't even travel as tourists.
нам не
We had to ask for permission from high officials. And if you could travel, you would have at least 2 KGB officers in your group to follow you, to listen to what you're saying. And you knew that they will tell on you, so you had to be very careful.
белый лист бумаги.
We had no idea how the economy is built in other countries. So now you have a clean slate,
Будьте всегда
a clean page to start your life.
чистый лист,
What you're going to write in there depends solely on you.
достоинство,
Try to have wholesome, clear thoughts. Maintain high honor and dignity.
своей отчизны,
Be grateful to your motherland, which gives you the opportunity,
несмотря на все,
despite our difficulties.
любите,
Love and serve your country, your motherland. I wish you happiness and success.
Находясь на учебе в 90
When I was studying in 1997, we were invited to a meeting with the president. This was due to the visit of the president of Kazakhstan to the United States, where 2 large oil and gas contracts were signed. And then, of course, there was a meeting between the president and us, the students, where we received a nice gift. President's book Strategy 2030 was just published at the time.
на
And so we were students, and students always have trouble with money. Nursultan Abishevich said that he was a student himself and he knows that money is always needed. It's not easy in terms of getting your things together as a student. And he gave a small envelope to each of us. It was very nice of him. It showed his attention to us, and it was very kind of him.
Там есть в конверте от меня небольшой подарок.
The sharp rise in the governmental policy of the state, which occurred in 1997, was designated by the strategy Kazakhstan 2030. It reformed the scholarship Bolashak, bringing it to a new level of development. The country went from short-term goals to long-term plans. The state needed new managers, representatives of the medical and technical specialties.
Возвращаясь, по нынешним меркам далекий 97 год.
Going back to the distant 1997 when the president presented his address to the nation, where he identified the 2030 program, again, not everyone understood the scale, the enormity of the tasks that were set by the president. In 1997, we were standing on the threshold of the Asian crisis. In 1998, there was again a very difficult economic situation. We selected scholars for Bolashak program, and the budget, which had been provided for the program, was not enough to even send half of the selected children who passed competition. And again, we must pay tribute to the determination and wisdom of our president. I remember in 1999 when we had to leave to study, they bought us tickets and we were told that they will pay for our tuition after the first semester. If not, then we will have to come back. The Ministry of Education, which at the time supervised the program, made it clear that the Ministry of Finance in general wants to cut down the Bolashak program. So, of course, we were living in the uncertainty. And later, somewhere in the month of October, it became known that in spite of the difficulties, President, the head of the state, Nursultan Nazarbayev, as the founder of this program, didn't allow any cutbacks on Bolashak program, and payment for our tuition came in November. Of course, it was a very happy occasion. Because during the first 3 months, we were hanging by a thread. We didn't know if we would continue our studies or not. Kwandik Bishimbayev said that he, like all graduates, still feels responsible for the hopes laid on them by the president of the country and the people of Kazakhstan after being given the chance to get a good education in the best schools in the world. And the first people who highly appreciated the efficiency of the Bolashak program were foreign experts. Scholars of Bolashak program during 1996-1998 academic years received the highest score in academic performance among all our groups. We took into account students from all countries. I would like to voice the scores. Their GPA was 3.43 out of the 4 maximum GPA. This is equivalent to an honors degree in any American university. And I must say that subjects that Bolashak scholars study here in America are important and necessary for the development of Kazakhstan's economy. However, it's also beneficial for our cooperation. These are majors as economy, finance, business management and public administration, computer programming, law and environmental studies, education, English. And so for us, the American Council, it's an honor today to present to you this graduate group. All of us sponsors, organizers, program founders are very proud of brilliant academic success of our students, and we're confident that they will contribute to the development of a new society. International scholarship Bolashak was intended to become the locomotive of Kazakhstan's economy. But for many skeptics, it was difficult to believe at the time. For some, Bolashak seemed to be an impossible dream. For others, a failed project.
Было время, когда по поручению президента страны была
At the time, I worked as the head of the president's administration. And during this time, the president ordered to create a special commission which would carry a detailed audit of the program. And according to obtained results of a scrupulous audit, we had some organizational conclusion about the program in general and its managers. and there were some questions.
Были тоже трудности.
We had difficulties in terms of our worries that they wouldn't come back. But I always said that 50, even 70% of them would come back and continue their development here in Kazakhstan. Scholars didn't fall short of the country's credibility and returned their debt through a diligent work for the good of the country, while not many wanted to appreciate their efforts.
Но первое время, я уже говорил, были
At the very beginning, we had different problems. Many of them couldn't find a job. There weren't any vacancies. Some companies didn't need English language. Investors came with their own capital. President several times had to make an emphasis to the ministries to hire Bolashak scholars. And they're diligent and humble, knowledgeable of technologies, and have computer and language skills. They know the work ethics of foreign workplaces. There were difficulties, and now I think the situation got a lot better, and they now make good salaries and work on equal positions to foreign experts. They work as top managers not only in business, but some of them already became akims of districts, regions, major cities. They also work in ministries. The country gained such valuable results, maybe because the best of the best was selected to this program. During the first years of the program, scholars studied only in 4 countries: the US, the UK, Germany, and France. Subsequently, the geography of these countries has expanded due to the development of cooperation with foreign universities. The first major partners of the scholarship became the British Council, German Academic Exchange Service, and Campus of France. Campus France has about 200 representative offices around the world and the staff of about 500 people. For example, in Kazakhstan, we have 2 representative offices in Astana and Almaty. Time flies. At the moment, our established cooperation with the program Bolashak is more than 20 years old. Kazakhstan experienced tough times. But despite that, the head of state decided to send young people to the best universities in the world, including those that we have in France. While France at the time had its own different programs for foreign students. Our organization has responded, and we have established a link with the program Bolashak. At first, there were a small number of students from Kazakhstan, but the number has increased a lot more in the last few years. The program itself is very sound, and I think that it will bring up more than one generation in the future. I am glad that our organization has the opportunity to collaborate with such a program and with such a country.
Вы знаете, это было уже 20 лет тому назад.
I think it has been more than 20 years now. I came to Kazakhstan for the first time as a member of British Council. At the time, British Council didn't have its own office yet here in Kazakhstan. We didn't have a full staff, so I myself had to be the one who represents British Council. Of course, it was a difficult time. No one could predict the future of Kazakhstan economy. But all the same, it was interesting and challenging. Because everything was new, it was unpredictable. Everyone was involved in planning the future of the country. And good planning required not only rich natural resources such as oil and gas, but also the richness of human capital, intelligent youth. Because the majority of countries' elites studied in the Soviet system, and no one could see the way of working with foreign companies, and they needed specialists to build new society, new elite. I think it was a very wise decision and made in good time. I think there is no better investment than investment into the future of the country, thus into the youth of the country. 187 scholars, 187 lucky ones, 187 the best of the best. As soon as they returned, they had to reform practically all spheres of life. They had to contribute to the formation and establishment of the new state on the political map of the world, to put into practice international experience and innovation. In the future, they will take the key leadership positions in different structures of the government responsible for the reform of the economy, civil service, or they will become managers of an entirely new format. They set ambitious targets. They set ambitious goals and achieve them. It never could have gone any other way. because Bolashak pioneers created history of sovereign Kazakhstan. Makhjan Nawazov began his studies as a scholar of the Bolashak program in Washington University in 1994. Soon after graduation in 1996, he entered the master's program at Columbia University in New York. After 2 years, he received master's degree of financial analyst and returned to Kazakhstan in order to justify the confidence of the state and to work for the good of his country.
По программе Bolashak практически все студенты.
The majority of those who studied under the Bolashak program came back home. As for today, the work in public administration positions in private sector, national companies, regional accumulates. I think it's a very important aspect of this program and the policy of our president that allowed us, the youth of the country, not only study in the best universities, but also come back and find our place in Kazakhstan. Today, many graduates of the program work in regions. In this sense, the program became a representation program in different aspects of our economy: education, health, and science. Today, many of the scholars are working at the Nazarbayev University. Many of them had a brilliant education, and now they teach at the university, sharing their experience and knowledge. To get new skills, come back and lead our country forward. Educational opportunity within the presidential scholarship is a kind of credit of trust issued by the state and its people to young and promising citizens of Kazakhstan. And one can only return this trust through honest and diligent work for the good of the country. If at the beginning Bolashak scholars raised the quality level of management, later graduates of the program formed the reserve of highly skilled specialists to the highest public office positions.
Яркий пример, да, Бауыржан Кадыргалич Байбек, руководитель города Алматы.
Current Hakim of Almaty, Baurzhan Baybek, is a bright example. This is a person that we waited for a long time to take a position like this. At the moment, I am the head of public association, I'm the Almaty resident, and we were very happy when he was appointed as a Kim. And he turns out to be a Bolashak scholar. He's very progressive, and undoubtedly because of his participation in the program. This is a great example. I am happy that Bolashak scholar will be responsible of changing the lives of our cities, taking them to another level of development.
Вообще все казахстанские студенты Болашака были в числе лучших.
Students from Kazakhstan, Bolashak students, were among the best students at the universities. I remember myself, I had only one B grade at the end of the first semester. And even then, we were worried that this one grade can determine our end in the program. Other grades were excellent. There were 6 students from Kazakhstan in my university at the time, and we dedicated 90% of our time to studies, library, and exams, and 10% of the time was spent on sleep, food, and preparation for the next day. Our fellows, they proved that Kazakhstan is not an underdeveloped, God-forgotten country where people ride camels. On the contrary, they proved that we have educated, smart, young people. The results were stunning. My friends with whom I shared the apartment, Maksat Mamashev, my very close friend, Timur Tibayev, Tilget Bajanov, we were bright representatives of Kazakhstan. We shared our culture, we were successful in our studies. We demonstrated that Kazakhstan is a country where people have a high potential and they can proudly say that they are from Kazakhstan. Today, Bolashak program has new challenges. It now has to become a locomotive of the country's educational system. We must strive to make our universities not less prestigious than foreign educational institutions. During 10 years of the program's existence, 800 young Kazakhstanis were awarded this international scholarship. Leading universities of the United States, Europe, CIS, China, Malaysia, and Singapore considered an honor to welcome our graduates. And it was due to the constantly reforming and modernizing scholarship selection policy. Thanks to the Bolashak program, the global community learned more about Kazakhstan, its people, culture and traditions, possibilities, and potential of this amazing land.